Hey y'all, welcome or welcome back to my channel. My name is Taya and this is Taya's Turning Pages. So by the title of today's video, you can tell that this is going to be my May TBR. And honestly y'all, I filmed this video last night and I didn't like how it turned out. So here we are again. And I'm really tired, but we're gonna get through it because new books, new month, and we love that. I am going to break this video up into two categories. So I am going to start off with my solid slash like confirmed list of books that I am really going to try to get to through the month of May. And then I'm also going to have a category of books that are just my hopefuls slash my pile of possibilities. Like I mentioned in previous videos, I am going to be packing and moving soon. So realistically, I don't know how many books I'm going to be able to get through, like physically. Audiobooks, I should be fine. But physical books, that's where the problem lies. So if I could at least get through 4 books in my concrete list, that would be phenomenal. But again, I have to be realistic and strategic about my reading this month. So we'll see how all of this goes. And we'll definitely check back in May during my wrap up. But for now, I still want to show you guys these books because a lot of them I'm really excited about and I just can't wait to read them. So with all of that out of the way, let's get started. So the first genre we're going to start off with is romance. And y'all know how I've been in my historical romance bag as of recently, and Beverly Jenkins is the only historical romance author that I'm reading right now, and I have no regrets. So the first book that I have in this pile is Jewel by Beverly Jenkins. And before we get into the actual synopsis of this book, can we just appreciate the cover for 1 second, because I love it. I love it so much, like beautiful. Every single time I look at the cover art on Beverly Jenkins historical romances, I just swoon because the models are stunning and I just love it. Like they just look so like passionate and just love, and I eat it up. But yeah, this is definitely one of my favorite covers out of all of the books that I own by Beverly Jenkins. This is definitely like in my top 3. So this is actually a fake dating romance, and I'm so excited, you guys, because I don't think I've read a fake dating in my historical romances yet. So besides Forbidden Love and like enemies to lovers and the one bed trope, this is also my favorite trope, which is fake dating. It just hits different. Like I can't explain it. The girls that get it, get it. This actually follows 2 people, one named Eli and one named Jewel. And Eli is actually known as the town bachelor. So he's known for not committing to just one person. He likes to have his fun until one day his reputation starts to precede him. And in order to get the town off of his back, he decides that he needs to have a wife in order to do that. So he asks his friend Jewel, can she play as his pretend wife? So that way the town can just leave him alone. And Jewel isn't really happy about it at first, but because Eli is her friend, she decides to go along with the plan anyway. And then unfortunately their plan gets outed to the town, and in order to save whatever he has left of his reputation, he tells Jewel that they're gonna have to keep up this little charade for a lot longer than anticipated, much to Jewel's dismay. But as time goes on, sparks start to fly and they clearly start to develop real feelings for each other. So I'm just really excited to dive into this one because like I already said, I love fake dating, and I just know that this one is going to be really good, really passionate. I'm also a fan of like the guy being like a playboy in my romance books because you just know what's coming. You know that there's going to be a female main character that comes along and turns his world upside down and makes him realize that like, no, like I'm the one for you and you need to stop playing around. So I just can't wait to read this one and just to see how this all plays out. But I'm letting you guys know right now, if I only get to 1 book this month, it's gonna be this one, okay? Because I read through The Storm last month by Beverly Jenkins and I'm still thinking about that story and those characters. I do think that I'm going to end up rereading that book at some point down the road because it was just that good. But I will save my thoughts for that book in my April wrap up, so definitely make sure you subscribe and turn on those post notifications. But yeah, can't wait to read this one. And the last romance that I have in this list is Book Lovers by Emily Henry. So this is another book that was actually on my most anticipated reads of 2022 list, and I will leave that video linked up above or down below because I did make a video where I included this book. But I am again really excited to read this one. I was actually already planning on pre-ordering this and just reading this on my own time, but the book club that I'm a part of decided to select this book as our May pick, and I'm really happy about that. So the only things that I know about this one is that right here it says 1 summer, 2 rivals, a plot twist they didn't see coming. I have seen people who have received an arc of this book talk about how it really is just a love letter to books, the publishing industry, and just all of what goes into making a great story. And of course there is a romance involved. I do like that there is something else going on in the book besides just the romance, but Emily Henry is usually known for that, which I really like when it comes to her writing style. So looking at the synopsis here, it says this does follow 2 characters, so one named Nora, and I think Nora is a literary agent, and then it also follows Charlie, who is a brooding editor. That's how he's described as. They are considered rivals, so I think they do end up in this town or like this writers convention over the course of a few days, and they're they're of course just like kind of like competing within their industry and their field, and then sparks start to fly and the story takes off from there. So I know that was probably like such a crap synopsis, but that's what I gathered from it. And honestly, I don't really want to know too much going into this one because I just want to be surprised and I just kind of want to be here for the ride. I loved Beach Read by Emily Henry, and I didn't really know too much about that book before I went into it, and I'm glad I didn't because I felt like it gave me a different reading experience, and I love that book. It's one of my favorite romances of all time. I did not read People We Meet on Vacation. I actually ended up DNFing that book because I just did not like it. I thought the pacing was just too slow, and I've never really been the biggest fan of friends to lovers. That's just like my personal prerogative. It's just really not my favorite trope. So I just didn't really care for that book, but I am excited about this one, and I hope that this one becomes another favorite of mine because I love her writing style. She's very funny, very witty, and I feel like very clever when it comes to the dialogue between her characters, and she definitely is one of those authors to me that deserves the hype. So I'm really excited about this one, and I'm happy that the ladies in my book club chose this. Now we're going to move on to thrillers, and I actually only have one in this pile, and it was a cover by, but I again have no regrets, and it is An Honest Lie by Tarryn Fisher. So this is actually going to be my first Tarryn Fisher read, and I am a little bit nervous because the people that I do know that have read Tarryn Fisher have said that she is a hit or miss author for them, and it's usually a miss. So I am really hoping that this book isn't a miss and I do enjoy it, but I did buy this book solely off of the cover. I just think that it is absolutely stunning, and something about it, I don't know, it just does something to me, y'all. I don't know what it is, but I really like it. This actually follows a young woman named Lorraine, aka Rainey, and she actually ends up going on this girls weekend trip to Vegas, and while she's in Vegas, one of her friends actually ends up getting kidnapped, and in the midst of all of this, Rainey actually receives a text message from that friend's phone from the kidnappers telling her specifically, "We have your friend, but it's you who we really want." And Rainey actually knows why these people want her and who they are. And so I'm guessing you follow Rainey on this journey of just trying to figure out like why these people actually want her, what's really going on with her and her backstory, and if her friend is going to make it out alive. So this just sounds like it's going to be a really fast-paced, like nail-biting, anxiety-inducing thriller. I'm here for it. So yeah, I really hope that this is a hit for me, and I'm hoping that Tarryn Fisher can become another like favorite thriller author of mine. We will see, but I'm really excited to read this one nonetheless. Now we're gonna move on to a miscellaneous category because both of these books are just like standalones within their own genre. So the next book that I have here is a nonfiction read. It is I Am Malala, the Girl Who Stood Up for Education and Was Shot by the Taliban. This is actually going to be the book that I choose for Kayla's Buzzwordathon prompt for the month of May, and I think the prompt has something to do with reading a book that has like a direction in the title. So The Girl Who Stood Up for Education and Was Shot by the Taliban. So this is the book that I decided to go with, and I'm really happy about this one. This has actually made it onto my 12 nonfiction books of 2022 TBR. I'm finally making my way through that list, y'all. A couple months late, but you know, better late than never. So anyways, this is actually the memoir of Malala Yousafzai, and this pretty much just talks about her time in Pakistan and when she was really trying to champion for free and accessible and fair education for young girls and women in Pakistan. And unfortunately, because of that, she was targeted and shot by the Taliban. So I know that this is going to be a very emotional and heavy read, but I know it's going to be so moving because Malala herself is a moving and inspiring figure, and I really look up to her because everything that she has done and still does for young girls and women across the globe cannot be understated, and it is admirable that there are some people that are put on this earth to just do the Lord's work essentially, and that's to me what Malala is doing. So I'm really excited to learn more about her and her life, and also just learning more about, you know, what she's doing now, being the huge public figure that we know her as today. So yeah, can't wait to read this one, and I would definitely report back in my May wrap up. And the last book that I have in this pile is The Lying Life of Adults by Elena Ferrante. So this is another April leftover. I really try my hardest to get to this in April, you guys. You have no idea, but it just didn't work out, unfortunately. But I am going to prioritize this and really bump this up on my May TBR because I really want to read this book. I really just want to be able to, one, say that I have read something by Elena Ferrante before, but also, like I said in my other videos, I'm a huge fan of coming of age stories, and that is what this book is. So this book actually follows a 14-year-old girl named Giovanna who is torn between two cities, and in one of the cities, her Aunt Victoria actually lives in one of them. And so I think Giovanna goes to stay with her Aunt Victoria, and I think her Aunt Victoria just serves as like a mentor in a way. So yeah, I'm really excited about this one. I haven't seen too many reviews on this book, but then again, I haven't really went out of my way to look up reviews because I really just wanted to go into this like unbiased. But either way, really excited, and like I said, I am going to bump this up because this is a priority, guys. Like, I need to read this and see what this book is giving. And like I mentioned in my April TBR video, Elena Ferrante is well regarded and highly respected in the literary space, to the point where people have said that she is like one of the greatest writers of our time. So I want to see if that is the truth for me. So again, we'll report back in my May wrap up, but really excited. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the pile of possibilities, which I feel like is the fun part because these are the books that I know I'm not going to get to, but I still want to show them anyway anyway because I'm hoping that I do. The first book that I have in this pile is a romance, and it is The Wedding Crasher by Mia Sosa. And can we just take a minute to also appreciate this cover, because the pink, it's given. But honestly, it is very reminiscent of The Worst Best Man written by Mia Sosa. I just feel like her and her illustrator do a very cute and fun job when it comes to her cover art. So this actually follows the cousin of the main character in The Worst Best Man. This actually follows a young woman named Solange who is assisting her cousin Lena, who is a wedding planner, for this wedding. And while Solange is helping out and, you know, prepping for this wedding, she stumbles upon a private conversation between the groom and someone else, and she overhears the groom telling this person that they're not really sure about this wedding, they're not really sure about the woman that they're about to marry. And so because Solange hears this, she decides to take it upon herself to go to the bride slash wife to be and lets her know, like, hey, your man is over here basically telling somebody that he doesn't know if he wants to be with you, so just giving you a heads up. And so the bride looks at her and she's like, oh, thanks for the heads up, and she essentially dips and leaves the wedding. So now there really is no wedding. And once the groom finds this out, he starts to panic because his boss specifically told him that in order for him to get this promotion, he needs to be married and a family man. So I think he ends up finding out that Solange is the reason why this wedding is no more. And so he basically begs Solange to like be his fake fiance slash wife, and so that way he can get this promotion. And I think because Solange feels guilty to an extent, she decides to agree, and the story takes off from there. So as you can tell by the synopsis, it is a very silly and standard and stereotypical rom-com, but I eat those up. Sometimes you just need a good fluffy rom-com, and I feel like that's what this book is going to give me, so I'm here for it. Now this book is a little bit long, like it's pretty thick. This book is almost like 400 pages, which I don't know, I'm still kind of on the fence about romances being that long, because it's like, does it really need to be that long? Can we cut it down just a little bit, But I really do like Mia Sosa, and The Worst Best Man is one of my favorite romances of all time. I definitely want to give this a read and see if this is also going to become one of my favorites. And I'm really happy that Mia Sosa is back, because I don't think she's written anything or published anything since The Worst Best Man, and that came out a while ago. So I'm really happy that she's back on the scene, and I can't wait to dive into this one at some point. The next book that I have here is another April leftover, and it is Black Girls Must Be Magic by Jane Allen. So I actually read Black Girls Must Die Exhausted back in April, and I enjoyed the story for what it was. It wasn't perfect, but I really did enjoy the story. So this is the sequel to Black Girls Must Die Exhausted, so I'm not going to get into the synopsis because I did read the back and it will spoil a lot of things that took place in the first book. So I definitely recommend picking up the first book if you are interested in this series. I do think that this is going to become a trilogy, which I'm really happy about, because we don't really have that many, like, you know, trilogies where it follows like a black protagonist, at least like in the literary space I can't think of. So I'm really excited to dive into this one and to see how life is like for Tabby, Layla, and Alexis now. And I also wanted to say that I actually follow Jane Allen on Instagram, and she's actually working with a production company to bring this trilogy to life, and I'm really excited about it, you guys. So this is going to become a TV series. I'm not sure when, but I am looking forward to it. I'm really excited to see who is going to be casted as Tabby, Layla, and Alexis. I'm not really looking forward to the men that are going to be in this show, because I could not stand them in the book, so I just know they're going to be insufferable through the TV screen, but we're gonna get them regardless, okay? We're gonna get them regardless, especially Marcus's character. So yeah, but anyways, really excited for all of that and really happy for Jane Allen. The next book that I have in this pile is On the Come Up by Angie Thomas. So I have said before in my previous videos that Angie Thomas is actually one of my favorite authors of all time, and The Hate U Give is still to this day one of my favorite books of all time. I remember when I first read that book, and the feels that I felt when I read it cannot be understated. I have never felt more seen and more represented in a character than I have with Star, still to this day. She just embodied, I feel like, so many black girls. It was just so nice to really like see myself in a character like her represented in a story. Because of that book and because of Concrete Rose, which is another one of my favorite books of all time, I just knew that I was going to have to pick this up and give this one a read, because this is the only Angie Thomas book that I have not read yet, and that's a crime, guys. Like, that's a crime. Like, I need to get on it, right? So this actually follows a 16-year-old girl named Bree who is an aspiring rapper, and you pretty much just follow Bree's journey of trying to break into this industry and really be taken seriously. So I'm really excited to dive into this one to see what Bree's got, and, you know, to hear her bars and read her bars. This is also another book that's going to be adapted soon, and it's going to be adapted into a film, and some of my faves like Sanaa Lathan and Method Man are either going to star in the movie or work on it at the very least, and I'm really, really excited about that. So I definitely need to make sure I read this book before the movie comes out, because I'm that type of person that has to read the book before I watch the movie if I know about the book ahead of time, you know? So yeah, I definitely won't be watching it until I read this one. I am really looking forward to this. I haven't really seen too many reviews of this book. Granted, I didn't join Bookstagram until recently, so I probably just missed the wave for this book. And the next book that I have here is The Paris Apartment by Lucy Foley. So I feel like I am the last person on the planet to read this book. Everyone I felt like read this book in April, and I dropped the ball completely. And it's honestly because I have seen so many mixed reviews a lot of negative reviews for the most part on this book, so I was a little bit hesitant on picking it up, but I realized that I can't do that and I need to just pick up the book and just dive in and see if I'm going to like it or not, because there are a lot of books that people don't really care for that I enjoyed, Survive the Night, and there are some books that people really love that I didn't enjoy. This book follows a young woman named Jess, and Jess actually just got out of a long-term relationship, and because she's still licking her wounds from that, she decides to call up her brother who lives in Paris and ask him can she come stay with him for a little bit. And he's not really happy about it, but he decides to, you know, let her come stay with him in Paris because that is his sister. And so Jess decides to jet set off to Paris, and when she gets there she realizes that her brother is nowhere to be found. She doesn't really think too much of it, and she's not really alarmed at first. She kind of just looks at it as like, okay, maybe he's just doing his own thing. So she goes about her days, and as the days wear on she realizes that she still hasn't heard from or seen her brother, and so she starts to get a bit concerned. But in the midst of all of that, she notices weird and like creepy things happening when it comes to the neighbors, and the story takes off from there. So I do think that this is a locked room mystery. It is like one of those isolated mysteries as well, and I think it's a one by one like whodunit type of vibe. I feel like Lucy Foley is one of those thriller authors that is just so like polarizing that you either really love her work or you don't at all. Same goes for Riley Sager in my opinion. I feel like a lot of people either really like his work or they really don't. There's no in between. I still don't know how I feel about Lucy Foley. This will be the first book that I read by her. I do have The Hunting Party on my TBR cart, but I just haven't felt like inclined to pick it up just yet. But I might do an author taste test where I read this book and that book, like to compare her older works and her newer work and see, you know, how it goes. Even though I am a little hesitant on picking this one up, I do like the premise and I like the plot of it, and it does sound like it's one of those books that's going to be right up my alley because I do like a good whodunit and a good, you know, one by one mystery. I know that they can be very formulaic, of course, but they're fun. Sometimes they're good fillers when you're like reading like all these romances back to back to back, or when you're reading like other intense thrillers back to back to back. So yeah, I'm going to really try to sneak this one into my May TBR, but I don't know how realistic that's going to be, you guys. But either way, I will hopefully get to this before summer comes and goes. And the last physical book that I have here in this pile is Cleopatra and Frankenstein by Coco Malors. So another April leftover. Are we surprised? I am not. So I didn't realize how long that this book was until I like really picked it up. And this book is about like, oh, this book is about, okay, it's actually not that long. I'm lying, y'all. It really isn't that long. It's almost 400 pages, but it definitely looks a lot thicker. Either way, this is a book that I unfortunately was not able to get to in April, but I'm still really excited to read this one. So this actually follows a young woman named Cleo and an older man named Frank, and I think Frank is considerably older than Cleo. I'm pretty sure he's in his 30s or 40s, and Cleo is in her early 20s. And so Cleo actually leaves her home country to come to New York City because she is an aspiring artist, and I think when she's in New York she meets Frank. Her and Frank do enter this whirlwind romance, and I think as time goes on, you start to see that Frank and Cleo's relationship isn't as perfect or healthy as it may seem, and the story takes off from there. So this is another book that I am really looking forward to because I have heard nothing but great things about this. It definitely gives me that cool girl slash that girl book. I have seen so many people on Bookstagram in particular post this book, myself included, but it definitely gives one of those type of books. So I really hope that this does live up to the hype and that it is actually like good. But I have seen a lot of people praise it, and this cover is actually growing on me. When I first got this, I was kind of like, I don't really know about this, but it's growing on me, honestly. Now if I do end up really liking this story, like I'm talking 5 out of 5 stars, no flaws, I am probably going to sell this on my Penguin Books account or my Depop and get the UK edition of this because I think the UK edition is so pretty and I really like it. It looks sleek, it looks cute, and it's definitely like very Instagrammable, which sounds like a hot mess. I really like that cover art, so if I end up really enjoying this one, then I probably will pick that one up. Okay, so those were the last of the physical books that I have on my pile of possibilities. Now we're going to get on to the books that I don't have physical copies of yet, but I'm hoping to get them soon. And the next book that I have in this pile is The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. I feel like I'm literally the last person on this planet to read that book. The only things that I know about it is that it follows a bunch of rich people and their drama, and there are a lot of parties that are thrown within the story, and there's a lot of tragedy and despair at the end. That's all I know, and that's all I need to know because I love a good rich people drama book. I just read the first book in the Gossip Girl series, so y'all already know what it is. Y'all know that I love me a good rich person drama, so I'm here for it. Last book that I hope to get to in the month of May is Blockshot by Kennedy Ryan. So before we get into the synopsis of Blockshot, y'all, I just have to say I read Longshot last month and I'm still thinking about it, okay? Like 5 out of 5 stars. I love the book. As triggering and as heartbreaking and gut-wrenching as it was, it has easily become one of my favorite books of 2022. Iris, who is the female main character, that's my sister, okay? That is my sister, period. I loved her character. So I'm not gonna get into my full thoughts. Definitely stay tuned for my April wrap-up, but just know, Longshot, one of my favorite books Anyways, so Blockshot is actually the second book in the Hoop series, with Longshot being the first book, Blockshot being the second, and then Hookshot being the third and final book in the series. And so I'm not going to read the entire synopsis for Blockshot because it is pretty long, but I will read the little blurb. And right here it says, a standalone second chance enemies to lovers romance set in the cutthroat world of sports management. So I'm really excited about this one because this one actually follows the brother of the male main character in the first book, Longshot, August. This actually follows his brother, Jared. And we really didn't get to know too much about Jared because the first book, of course, was about August and Iris's love story. And so I'm really excited to get to know more about Jared because I actually really did like his character in the first book. But either way, this has all of the buzzwords, okay? Enemies to lovers, and it's a second chance romance, and it's a sports romance. All right, y'all, and those are all of the books that I hope to get to and get through during the month of May. Like I said, I don't know how realistic this is going to be. I'm hoping that I can at least get through 4 of these books in like my core category. I really hope so, but I don't know. I know for a fact I am going to have to read Book Lovers. This is a very ambitious TBR in terms of just like the hopefuls and the pile of possibilities, but like that's why they're called that. So I'm not gonna put too much pressure on myself, and honestly I'm not even going to be able to think about the pressure because I'm going to be packing anyway. So I'm not even gonna be thinking about it, but I really do hope that I can get through a majority of these books, and if not, I will just push them over to June because I always have leftovers. So yeah. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Definitely make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps me and my channel out. And lastly, please make sure you follow me on Bookstagram as well as Storygraph. I will leave all of that information linked down below, as well as at the end of the video like I always do. I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!